गुरु ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुर्साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। गुरवे सर्वलोकानां भिषजे भवरोगिणां निधये सर्वविद्यानां दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। हरिः ओम्। ॐ भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयामदेवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैः स्तुष्टुवागंसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। जय गुरुदेव। Scriptures say there are three things which are not easy to acquire. It's called durlabha. They are called manushyatvam, mumukshatvam, mahatmyanam sangatyam. Have a human birth, in this birth having a desire for liberation, for knowledge, and then having the company of the Mahatma or the enlightened to guide us in our desire. In that sense, we are very lucky we have all the three. We are a very rare breed of people on this planet. And this week has been especially very special because we had Gurudev's birthday, we have Adi Shankara, who is the proponent of the Advaita Vedanta, which we are discussing now, his Jayanti. We had Basavanna, a revolutionary from the 12th century, his Jayanti. It's been a very special week if you are paying attention. See, when we are in the session, when we listen to the knowledge, it all appears very nice. But when we have to apply that knowledge in our real life, sometimes we miss out. Why is integration of knowledge into our life difficult? Not for everyone, but generally. We hear, we sit and we say, okay, I am not the body, I am not the mind, I am witness, I am bliss. Half an hour down the line, somebody says something to you, suddenly you become the mind. Suddenly you become the body. Suddenly you lose that awareness that I am the witness of this. Why is this happening? Why does this happen? That's because we don't have harmony between the different components of our own existence. See, we have the body, we have the senses, we have the mind, we have the intellect. When they all are aligned, then it's easy to do anything. This alignment is called as dhruti. It brings about what's called as a resolve. Otherwise, there is no teamwork. Like The intellect says it's always good to wake up early in the morning. So let's wake up tomorrow at 5 o'clock. And it puts the alarm. When the alarm goes off, the intellect wakes up. But the body says, I don't want to wake up. It's easy for you to make the decision, but it is I who has to get out of the bed. I don't want to get out. So there is a conflict. Your intellect says you should not overeat, you should not eat too much sugar, it is not good for you. The senses says it's easy for you to tell that I am the one who has to have control. Again, there is a conflict. The intellect says exercising is good, you should not be lazy. The mind says, oh, it's easy for you to say, I will exercise tomorrow. This is what happens in our life, that the integration is not there. And thus we develop habits which are not very good for our progress. In the Kathopanishad, Yama tells Nachiketa, in every mode of our life, we are presented with two choices. It's called Shreyas and Preyas. Shreyas means long-term benefit. Preyas is short-term joy. It says one who chooses Shreyas will always be successful in his pursuit. One who chooses Preyas will never reach the goal. He keeps on missing the end point, life after life after life. Why do we hold on to the prayers and let go of the shreyas? Why do we hold on to convenience and let go of commitment? Is because of this lack of coordination, lack of integration between our own components. That is how all our habits have been born. Let's take a simple example. Only human beings have this concept of weekday and weekend. The entire nature of every day is the same. But then we have this. And remember the first time when you were introduced to this, or when you were a child, it wouldn't matter for you. You would wake up at the same time, whether there was school or no school. But then slowly you were conditioned to think, oh, today is Saturday, you can wake up a little late. You don't have to wake up. So in that consciousness which was unblemished, you made a small scratch. And what happened? You reinforce that scratch again and again and again. Slowly that scratch became a groove. And after a while the groove became a pit. And that pit you call it as a habit. The habit starts as a bit, then becomes a pit. Now if somebody tries to wake you up on a weekend, you feel annoyed. You don't even think, why should I sleep differently on a weekend? Because now you are held on to the prayers. Oh, it is nice to be in bed a little longer. So you start loving that laziness. And we do the same thing with everything, every aspect of our life. We try to find shortcuts. We try to put convenience over commitment, and that's where we keep faltering. Do you see what I'm saying? So how do you overcome the habit? Yes, you overcome a preyas habit with a shreyas habit. That's all. The mind and body respond to habits. Anything you do repeatedly over a period of time, it becomes comfortable with it. Ask people who do sadhana regularly. Ask them not to do sadhana. They will feel very uncomfortable. Tell people who exercise regularly not to exercise. They feel something is missing. So this is the skill. Skill is to replace one habit with another habit. This is called as pratyahara in the yogic tradition. All the guided meditations are pratyaharas. Your mind always wants to cling on to something of the past or future and keep on chewing it. Then you say, okay, you hold on to the knowledge. You hold on to this sutra. You hold on to this mantra. And then, okay, keep on chewing on that mantra again and again. Then it slowly replaces the thing which will drain your prana with something which uplifts you. Are you getting what I'm saying? So there you need what's called as the dhruti, a resolve to do it. So we spoke about the three bodies, yeah, the gross, subtle, and the causal bodies. The gross and the subtle bodies are the material bodies, and the causal body is the spiritual body. The gross, subtle, and the causal bodies can also be equated with the gunas, which is tamas, rajas, and sattvic. The gross body is basic function, nature is inertia, tamas. It likes to be as it is. How do you overcome this? By action. You can overcome the tamasic aspect of the gross body nature by action. Activity pushes it from tamas to rajas. And here it also depends on your attitude to life. If you have a tamasic attitude to life, then you find joy in pleasure, in laziness, in everything that drains your prana. And your focus is only on two or three things. What are they? Survival, pleasure, propagation of the species. Animals have two. The only idea, animals are totally nature governed, and their only focus in life is two. One, propagation of the species, and survival. And maybe somebody with tamasic tendency as a human being will have one thing more, which is what? Pleasure. One who sees joy in pleasure, in the sensory pleasure, and laziness, that's a tamasic attitude to life. No aspirations, no big plans or dreams or ambitions. Oh, this is okay. A little bit of pleasure, that's fine. And all your focus every day, what you are doing, every moment of life when you are awake, you are trying to find a way where you can find some pleasure through your senses. You want something nice to see, something nice to taste, touch, smell, or hear. That's all. If you get that, that's enough for me. I don't want anything else. The rajasic tendency is to achieve. Here the happiness is in success. It is a much higher happiness than the tamasic pleasure. And for this, you need to come out of your comfort zone. You need to work hard. You need to plan. You need to network. You need to develop skills. Most people are in this category of rajasic tendency. You want to prove, you want to dominate, you want to be better than others. You want more. I want more is a rajasic tendency. The greed is a rajasic tendency. And this is where the subtle body is very active. So, because the rajas means activity, when the subtle body becomes very active, we experience what's called as restlessness. How do you overcome this restlessness? By engaging in yajna. Yajna is what? Yajna is saying that for me, the results are immaterial, but the action is more important. I'll focus all in getting the action right. When you just focus on the results, you generate a lot more karma. When you focus only on action, that becomes a yajna. And then you offer the results to the divine, offer the action also to the divine. And you are able to accept. This is the way to overcome the rajas. Otherwise, what happens? Rajas being so much restlessness, so much non-acceptance. This should not be like this. I don't like this. I want to change this. And whenever you are stuck with some botheration, see how your whole body, your whole system is so shaky. Your prana is so shaky. That's because the rajas has taken over you. The subtle body, the mind is dominating your life. And you have to overcome that by acceptance, by engaging in action more fully, and by offering the action. And then we have got the sattvic tendency to life where you find joy in stillness. Tamas is also a type of stillness, but that stillness has got no aliveness. But a sattva is a stillness of aliveness and contentment. You don't want anything. You are happy still, and still you are still. You see the mind so steady and settled. The mind is all over the place in the Rajasic tendency, but in the Sattvic tendency, the mind is settled or almost non existent. What shakes you is the desires in the mind, is the wants, is the feverishness. When that dies down, you feel still and settled. And this happens when you meditate. When you withdraw from the material world and establish yourself in the witness, you experience the stillness. Do you see this? So, lethargy is experienced at the level of the body, pain is experienced at the level of the body, but suffering is experienced at the level of the mind. Just like we told you on the other day, when the sun is not there in the night, the moon appears the brightest. Similarly, when you are not focusing or reposing yourself in the witness or in the self, the mind, the subtle body becomes more active and the life becomes dominated by the mind. And that is why mind and Maya are not far away. When you are overwhelmed by Maya, that is also the time when your life is run by the mind. Mind is a very good servant, but when the master is not at home, how the servant behaves, he becomes the master. When the witness, when the awareness dawns in you that I am not this mind, I am not this body, I am the witness. When you start focusing more on the witnessing aspect of you, suddenly the dominating nature of the mind starts coming down. And that's when the suffering comes down as well. Two stages when the suffering does not bother you. When you are fully asleep. In deep sleep, there is no suffering. And there is no suffering in samadhi as well. And this state of samadhi, where you are equanimous and you use the mind and don't allow mind to use you, is the way of the enlightened. Enlightenment is a state of no mind. In fact, no mind is positive. Mind is negative. No mind is a positive state where, because the mind is not obscuring yourself, the self is radiant. Are you getting what I am saying? The self, existence has 5 components. We have discussed this before. Asti, Bhati, Preeti, Nama and Rupa. Asti, Bhati, Preeti can also be called as Sat, Chit and Ananda. Existence, aliveness or knowledge, and pleasantness or bliss, and a name and form. The Asti, Bhati, Preeti belong to pure consciousness for the causal body. When the mind dies down, when the mind goes to the background, then the jiva in you, it associates itself with this aspect of the causal body. And that is when it feels all the 3 things. What? It feels I am, it feels I am alive and full of knowledge, and I am happy, I am bliss. Do you see what I am saying? So the enlightened see spirit in matter. In everything outside, they see these 3 aspects of existence, which is Sat, Chit and Anand. Why? Because they see it in themselves. That is how they identify themselves. But we identify ourselves with body, mind, and so we impose that on the spirit also. That's why our gods have all got names, forms. Some are good gods, some are bad gods. Some gods get angry, some gods are punishing. So an unenlightened, an unwise person sees matter in spirit. An enlightened sees spirit in matter also. That is why sometimes it's difficult to follow the enlightened. They are unpredictable. What they say does not appear very logical, but you can also not negate it. You can also not say that person is lying. Somewhere you feel there is something what he is saying or she is saying, but at the same time you see you can't relate to it totally. Where you are to where you want to be, where the enlightened, where the master is, that is your sadhana. What is natural for the master is sadhana for you, because that is where you want to be. For a doctor, treating a patient is natural. But to become a doctor, he had to go through this 8-10 years of hard work, tapas. So what is natural for a siddha is sadhana for a seeker. So that's why there are a lot of stories of the enlightened where it's very difficult to grasp exactly what they are saying in the first go. You need to be really there 100%. Living in the present moment is natural for the enlightened, but for you or for the unenlightened, it is the practice. The whole sadhana path is about you training yourself, gearing up yourself to become something which is very natural to somebody else. That's why an enlightened master is so important, because he is a role model. He is there. So there is a story. A disciple asks the master, "You have a body like me. You live in the same world. You eat food like me. You have preferences as well. Before he could say anything, the master says, "That's what you see." Then the disciple asks, "Okay, then that's what I wanted to ask. What do you see? How do you see the world?" So the master says, "Who sees?" Think about it. I'll tell you another story. There was a disciple who went to a master and said, "How do I stand tall in life?" The master just bowed down to him. Last story. When somebody came to Ramana Maharshi and told him, "This was my lifelong mission to come and meet you once. Now that I have met you, my mind is at peace." And Ramana Maharshi looked at him and said, "What mind?" Okay, we will stop there. Think about these stories. That's the way of the enlightened. They will never give you a direct answer. They will make you to go back and think, and what did he actually mean? What is this? And that is where your Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasa happens. This is the way to absorb the knowledge, integrate the knowledge. You hear it, you chew on it, you reflect on it again and again and again, and then, that aha moment will come. When it comes, then it is your knowledge. Otherwise, if you get everything spoon fed, it is somebody's knowledge. You are just copying and taking it as your knowledge. It's like somebody teaches physics, somebody who has never seen an atom will teach about all the structure of an atom, function of an atom, where this, where that is. But you have never experienced an atom. Somebody has told you, you are telling somebody else. A master will never fill you with empty ideas. He will take you through. And he knows that life is eternal. If not this life, next life. If not next, then the one after. You develop that dhruti, that desire, that longing for that ultimate, and then slowly you will get it. Yeah. So the enlightened stays in this state of what's called samadhi. So there are two types of samadhi. It's called savikalpa samadhi and nirvikalpa samadhi. Savikalpa samadhi is a samadhi in which the mind is also functioning. The enlightened uses the mind to communicate, to design courses, to lead you into meditation, to advise you. You need the mind for that as well. So, a state of equanimity where you are established in the witness, but still you are using the mind as a tool is called savikalpa samadhi. And then there is a nirvikalpa samadhi where you are able to drop the mind. And when the mind is dropped, there is no suffering. You are in bliss. And when you are in Nirvikalpa, all the three aspects of the Brahman, which is Sat, Chit and Ananda, Asti, Bhati, Preeti, all the three shine in you. You feel that you exist, you realize that you are alive and vibrant, and you see that you are happiness. Now, Gurudev says in the Ashtavakra Gita in his commentary, everybody is happiness, but not everybody is happy. This is the difference between the enlightened and the unenlightened. An enlightened knows he is happiness. The unenlightened is looking for happiness. He wants to be happy. And this shift happens by separating the layers. How do you overcome Maya or the mind? Start separating. Oh, this is not me. Anything that is finite, separate yourself from it. Oh, this is not me. And anything that is infinite, associate yourself with it. And then when you are established in the infinite, then look at everything that is finite as a projection of the infinite. Okay, so what we'll do now is we'll meditate. We'll do this Savikalpa, Nirvikalpa meditation. So this today's talk, the master gives the technique of meditation as well. There are 6 shlokas on meditation. We'll practice them and then we will go through the shlokas as well. Okay, so let's sit comfortably. Asti bhati priyam rupam nama cha iti amsha panchakam adyatrayam brahma rupam jagat rupam tatodvayam. So the existence has 5 aspects: Asti bhati priyam, rupa and nama. Amsha Panchakam, 5 characteristics, 5 aspects of consciousness. The first 3 belong to the Brahman, and the last 2, name and form, that belongs to the Jagat or the universe or matter. Khavayu Agni Jalor Vishu Devatiryan Naradishu Abhinna Satchidanandaha Vidyate Rupa Namani. Beautiful. The world we see, the creation is made up of the 5 elements. These 5 elements exist in gods, in animals, as well as in ordinary people. In the devas, in the human beings, and in the beings of the lower world or the animals or the jadas. In the tamasics, in the sattvics and the rajasics. However, in all these 3 types of beings, the Satchidananda is the same. The only thing that differs between them is the nama and the rupa. An ignorant person will hold on to the name and form and let go of the true existence, whereas the wise will let go of the name and form and hold on to the existence, consciousness and bliss. Upeksha nama rupe dve Satchidananda tatparaha samadhim sarvada kuryat. Samadhim sarvada kuryat hridaye va athava bahihi. What do the wise do? How do they see this world? Ignoring the name and the form, they just focus on the existence, consciousness and bliss, the Satchidananda. They stay in Samadhi all the time, whether Savikalpa or Nirvikalpa. They repose in the witness, in the self, with eyes open or with eyes closed. Now they speak about the different types of meditation which we just experienced. Savikalpo nirvikalpaha samadhi dvivido hridi. There are 2 types of samadhi. Savikalpa and nirvikalpa. Drushya shabdanuvedena savikalpa punardvida. Savikalpa is that with thought, with the activity of the mind. Nirvikalpa, where the mind activity has ceased. And in Savikalpa, there are two other types. One with the support of a sound, and the other with the support of an object. So here he talks first about Savikalpa with object. Kamadhyas chittaga drishyas tat sakshitvena chetanam dhyayet drishyanu vidhi ayam samadhi savikalpaha. This is meditation with eyes closed. So what we did just now, you look at the scenery, you look at your own body, you look at the activities of the mind. Kamadyas chittaga drishyas, activities, the vrittis of the mind such as desires, see them as objects. Tat sakshitvena chetanam, and what is seeing is the witness. Dhyaye drishyanu vidhi, and focus on the seer. This type of samadhi, where you see everything apart from the seer as an object with your eyes closed, is called Savikalpa Samadhi. Savikalpa Samadhi with the support of an object. That is the one. Now he speaks about Savikalpa Samadhi with the support of a sound. Asangaha Sachidanandaha Swaprabho Dvaita Varjitaha Asmi iti Shabda Viddo Ayam Samadhi Savikalpaha. Now, when you are seeing everything apart from the witness as an object, then you focus on the witness and you can use these words. What are they? Asangaha, I am untouched. Sachidanandaha, I am existence, I am consciousness, I am bliss. Swaprabha, I am self-illuminous. Dvaita Varjitaha, I am one and everything. Words like this you can use to support your understanding of yourself. And dwelling on such strong, realistic assertions is Savikalpa Samadhi with the support of sound. Swanubhuti rasaveshat drishya shabdau upekshatu nirvikalpa samadhi syan nivata sthita deepavat. When you are blissfully reposing in the self, the object and the sound also can be dropped. And that state of consciousness where the sound and the mind have died is called Nirvikalpa Samadhi. And that state, your consciousness is still like the flame of a lamp in a place where there is no movement of air. Krishna gives this example in the Gita as well. How is the state of a person in samadhi? Is his consciousness, his awareness is so steady like the flame of a lamp in a place where there is no movement of air. So when you are drowned in the bliss of your existence, the name and the form, the sound and the object also are dropped off, and then you just stay with the existence, consciousness and bliss. Hridiva bahya deshe api yasmin kasminscha vastuni samadhiradhya sanmatran nama rupa pratakritaha. Now these are the three types of samadhis we have described with eyes closed. Now he says you can do the same thing with eyes open. With eyes closed, Savikalpa, with object, you looked at everything as an object, your body, the prana, the mind, the thoughts, the intellect. Now he says, look at anything outside you with your eyes open and then treat that also as an object. And see that All these objects are nothing but a projection of that infinite Brahman, but it only differs from the Brahman because it has got name and form. Separate the name and form and stay with the source. This, if you can do with your eyes open, this is Savikalpa Samadhi with eyes open, with object. अखंड एक रसम वस्तु सच्चिदानंद लक्षणम इति अविच्छिन्न चिंतेयम समाधिर मध्यमो भवेत. When you are focusing on an external object, when you put your attention on an external object, when you are able to see that as nothing but a reflection of the pure consciousness, whose qualities are Satchidananda, and if you can have this sort of attitude towards everything that you see in the external universe, and in your mind, if you have this attitude that everything is nothing but existence, consciousness, bliss, that type of such contemplation, when you do avichinna, uninterruptedly, if you can do on everything that you see, that type of meditation is called Savikalpa, with sound, with eyes open. स्तब्धि भवो रसास्वादात् तृतीयः पूर्ववान् मतः एतत् समाधिभिः शब्दैर् षड्भिर् नयेत् कालं निरन्तरम्. This is the sixth type of samadhi. What? Now your eyes are open. Initially you held on to an object and then you said, this object is nothing but a reflection of Brahman. It is nothing but bliss, existence and consciousness. Now even drop that notion and just become one. And this sort of dissolving into the existence with your eyes open is called Nirvikalpa Samadhi, with eyes open. So you see, these are 6 types of Samadhi, 4 Savikalpa, 2 Nirvikalpa. And practice this meditation regularly. Find this ability to separate yourself from everything that is finite, associate with that which is infinite, and then when you start coming out, look at everything that is finite, accept it as part of the projection or reflection of the infinite Brahman. So what happens when you get established in this state or in this samadhi? Dehabhimane galite vignate paramatmani yatra yatra mano yati tatra tatra samadhayaha. This is how an enlightened, this is a natural state of an enlightened being. What? Dehabhimane galite. This attachment to the body and mind dissolves. Vignate paramatmani. The attention is established, the awareness is established away from the body and the mind on the witness. Yatra yatra mano yati tatra tatra samadhayaha. So when established as a witness, he can do anything, he can be anywhere, but he is in a state of equanimity or samadhi, a state where the mind is not a botheration. The mind is just an instrument of execution. भिद्यते हृदय ग्रंथि छिद्यन्ते सर्व संशयः क्षीयन्ते च अस्य कर्माणि तस्मिन् द्रष्टे परावरे. Now this is told by Krishna as well in the Gita in a slightly different form. भिद्यते हृदय ग्रंथि, your heart opens up, which means what? You feel that expansiveness, that love towards everything, that lightness, that joy. Chidyante sarva samshaya. All the doubts you have about the self and your existence itself will be dispelled. Kshiyante cha asya karmani. The moment you realize you are not this body, you are not this mind, with conviction, in an experiential level, at that time all your karmas disappear. So the enlightened is one without karmas as well. Karma belongs to the doer. When you are a witness, you are a non-doer, so the karmas dissolve instantly. Kshiyante cha asya karmani tasmin drashte paravare. Once you are established in the self. Paravara means is a word which uses which is used for Brahman as well as for Ishvara. Means one where the Maya is quiescent and where the Maya is active. Both belong to the word called Paravare. So when you are established in this witness, in this Brahman, with or without attributes, what happens? All these things happen. Your heart opens up. You are joyful. You are full of love. You have got no doubts. You are steady, unshakable, and you are free from all karmas. So that's the meditation, the process of samadhi, and the benefit or outcome of how you will be when you are established in that type of samadhi. Okay, good. Very good. Okay, see, this is what we did today. What we understood is very profound. It's amazing, transforming knowledge. This is, and yet it is so simple and so tangible. Do you see? So just marinate yourself in it. Settle down in this knowledge and stay with it. Yeah, and see everything from the eyes of an enlightened. So how would the enlightened person see this? You get angry at somebody, suddenly see, how would an enlightened person see this? You get upset with something in the life is bothering you, you look at it, oh, what is happening? Where is the suffering happening? Oh, in the mind. When the mind is awake, it means that Maya is awake as well. It means the transactional world has appeared. That's because the Brahman has been veiled. Oh, let me go back to the witness, and then you see. This is how you keep applying. Yeah? Now somebody sent a very beautiful quote of Gurudev, isn't it? Just be with the knowledge. You don't need to think about applying it. It will apply itself. You just don't go away from there. Just hold on to it. Just be there. Yeah. Very good. Very good. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramayah, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhat Bhave. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.